Today she's going to share her personal experience with us about working as a court interpreter, covering how to prepare for a case, interpreting in the dock and on the witness stand, and some common mistakes to avoid and other practical tips. Please join me in welcoming Lynn.
Everyone, my name is Lynn. Actually, Connie, you guys know she's a lawyer, so she has a lot of experience, like legal background. I studied conference interpreting back in China for my bachelor degree, so 4 years of that, and master degree at UQ, 2 years of that, so 6 years of training. People would say, oh my God, you have 6 years of formal training, so you can do legal interpreting. But what I can tell you is that after the 6 years of training, I know very little. I know very little about legal interpreting. So I learned on the job. So if you just started, you are interested in pursuing legal interpreting, if you have interest in that and you are willing to work hard, I think you can achieve the goal. You can be a very excellent court interpreter. Okay, so today I'm going to share with you some practical tips because I didn't really study law, but I basically accumulated my experience on the job. So I'm going to share some of the tips. How do I prepare the case? What to do on a witness stand if you are sitting in the dock with a defendant? What should do, what shouldn't be done, okay? So I've structured my presentation into before the job, arriving on the job, after the job. So it's very simple. It's just a typical day of me, a working day. So before the job, for example, Translationz offer me a job. You're going to interpret at the district court. It's a 3-day trial or 1-day hearing, and it's a criminal setting case, in a criminal setting. So it's a sexual assault case. So first, I would actually say, oh, district court. I know the layout of the courthouse, and I can actually check which courtroom the day before. Because many courthouses, they update the daily law list, or they call daily court list, the day before. So at home, you can actually check which courtroom your case will be heard. So you don't really need to go to the notice board and, squinting your eyes, where is my client's name on notice board? So you can just do it at the comfort of your home. If you are going to do your first interpreting job tomorrow, I strongly recommend you go to the courthouse to familiarize yourself with the layout the day before. You go there and observe what people is doing and what's happening. And Connie already shared with us, a lot of hearings and cases are open to the public. You can just pick a random case and sit there and listen and practice your listening skills. I can share with you my experience. So when I first graduated from UQ, I got my master's degree, but nobody knew who I was, and very few agencies were offering me jobs at that time. So I got a lot of free time. I thought I really would like to pursue legal interpreting. What can I do? I have so much free time on hand. So what can I do? So I spent 3 months going to the magistrate court on the George Street, wearing my suits, pretending I'm an interpreter, going there, picking a random courtroom, and just sit there. Practice shusha touch. Everybody knows shusha touch, whispering. Practice simultaneous interpreting. So when I first got my big job, a trial job at the district court, 7 days, a civil dispute, I'm already very confident. I know what's gonna happen. So 3 months of practice, that's gonna build up your confidence and all your knowledge and skills. So you can do that if you have some free time. Even if you just have a free afternoon, you can go and have a look. What's happening, what's people been wearing, how do they conduct themselves, how do they carry themselves. It's gonna, I think it's very beneficial if you can just do that. The second thing is, Connie talked about this, we have to know the nature of the matter. Is this a criminal case, a civil case? This will help us to work out a plan, how to prepare. And we also have to know who we are working for. Am I working as a court-appointed interpreter, or is this just a family dispute? I'm merely interpreting for the wife. Because we have different rules. If you are working as a court-appointed interpreter in a criminal setting, it is really strict. We're not allowed to talk to the parties. we cannot involved in any privileged conversations, so we have to know who we are working for. And dress code. I think Connie actually talked about some, because legal interpreting covers a lot, not only the courthouses, but also administrative appeals tribunal. Have you heard of that? Queensland civil and administrative tribunals. I think for tribunals, you don't really have to wear suits, but overdressing is always better than underdressing. So work out what you're gonna wear the next day and just present with professionalism. The next question is interpreting mode. In legal interpreting, especially in court interpreting, there are 2 modes involved. Do you guys know which 2 modes? 书shataj, yes, and also consecutive. On the witness stand, we are required to interpret in consecutive mode just to make sure we mirror the original utterance of the witness. So it's safe just to do it in the consecutive mode. So for shushataj, from my experience, magistrate courts, family court, federal circuit court, the magistrate and the judges don't really expect you to do a very excellent job of shushataj. Sometimes they are quite tolerant. If you can do consecutive, they will just say a segment and wait for interpret, especially for self-represented litigants. But for clients with lawyers, they would expect you to do effective whispering, shushataj. And how do I prepare? I'll give you guys an example. When I first was offered a job, like sexual assault case, I thought, oh my God, in my culture, we don't really talk about sex very openly. We talk about sex very modestly, so maybe the witness or the defendant would use very vague words. How am I going to do it very effectively? So I talked with the agency. At that time, it's not Translationz. The agency didn't do it like Translationz. What Translationz has been doing really well is that they actually send you email and provide the charge or the charges the defendant is facing, and it will help you to prepare, to work out a preparation plan. So I talked to the agency. I said I really need to know the charge, and they talked with the relevant court personnel. They said it's sexual assault charge. So I went online. I studied the criminal code, the criminal elements. And I said, okay, I finished reading. What if these new words haven't registered in my mind? I need to listen. So I got on YouTube and watched a lot of videos about lawyers talking about sexual cases, news report about sex crimes, things like that. And I binged watch some special victims unit, you know that, Law and Order, the TV show. I binge watched that. And I stumbled upon a video. Actually, it's a recording of a real court case in the U.S. Apparently, they got a permission. The media was allowed to record. So I just put on the video on my TV, and I practiced simultaneous interpreting shushataj. So when I went to the courthouse to do the job, I already knew what's going to happen. The prosecutor was going to open the case and then call the witness, examination in chief, cross-examination, everything, and the judge is going to give instructions to the jury, everything. So I'm quite confident. So my tip is always over-prepare, because interpreting at the courthouse is really stressful, especially in a criminal trial. 12 jurors are going to stare at you, and everybody's going to stare at you. And if you don't know what you are doing, you know, the nerves. So over-prepare, because we only have control over ourselves. Other will just have fun, right? So this is before the job. Next is arriving. You have to know which courthouse has which rules. So am I required to sign in? Yes, for district court. I know Translationz has been receiving a lot of job offers from district courts. So we are required to sign in at the registry. For other courts, maybe magistrate court or let's say family court, you only need to report to the relevant court personnel, maybe the associate, or maybe at the traffic court, magistrate court, the volunteer, or domestic violence volunteer, I just introduce yourself. That's the next step. Introduce yourself to the relevant court personnel. My name is so-and-so. I'm a Mandarin interpreter. I've been assigned this job for Miss So-and-so, and I will take an oath or affirmation. Bailiffs really love this because bailiffs are very good with their jobs. They know if you are going to require to interpret at the witness stand, they will need to ask you what are you going to take, an oath or affirmation. So just tell them beforehand. It is really professional and efficient. And if you are going to interpret for the witness, you have to explain your role, because a lot of the times the witness and the defendant treat us interpreters as their allies. So they conduct personal conversations with us even on the witness stand. So you have to say, everything you say will be interpreted in first person. I am not allowed to talk to you. So if you don't want this to be interpreted, just don't say it. I had this experience. The witness made such a comment saying, "Oh my God, this lawyer is so mean and she's so ugly." And I was like, I already explained my role to you. What am I going to do? I'm required to explain it, right? So to interpret it. So you have to explain your role. If you are going to interpret in the dock with the defendant, because we actually have to interpret everything, the exchanges between the bench and the bar table, between the judge and the counsels, sometimes there will be legal issues or some legal concepts. And just tell the defendant beforehand, I'm only here to interpret everything said in the courthouse, in the courtroom. If you don't really understand a concept or a definition or a legal issue, please make a note or just take it down and consult this with your lawyer. I am not in the position to give you legal advice or explain legal procedures. Do this and they will know how to work with you. And next part is the seating. I think AAT, the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, actually has a specific room for interpreters to wait, and a hearing assistant will go get you and take you to the relevant hearing room. But for other courthouses, we have to wait in the general area. And in a courtroom, inside the courtroom, sometimes interpreting for the defendant, you definitely have to sit in the dock. If there are co-defendants involved in the case, sometimes the bailiff will put you next to the dock. So just check it with the bailiff. Amenities. If you are going to do a 7-day trial, criminal trial, know where the toilet is and know where the cafe is, because we really need that caffeine boost. It is really tiring and taxing job. And then let's have fun. Always remember to have fun. Don't just think, oh my God, this job is so hard. If we can not avoid the process, we try to have fun, but also be professional at the same time. The next, actually, if we talk about on the job, we can cover a lot of points. I have picked out two main areas. One is working as a court-appointed interpreter. In the ideal world, we will get a briefing, right? The relevant court personnel will tell us what this case is about, what charge the defendant is facing, and everything. But a lot of the times, especially on the first day of the trial, everybody's really, really busy, and they don't really have time for us. But my tip is to arrive at the courtroom really early and introduce yourself to the bailiff. When the prosecutor, the crown, arrives, talk to them. Ask them whether you can have a look of the indictment. Because on the indictment paper, you will see the document, you will see the charges, you will see the time, you will see the address or the location of the accused crime. That will definitely help you. So if you can get a briefing, just try to get it. If you cannot, just deal with it, because it's totally out of our control. And shushataj. A lot of people think for interpreters, at the top of the pyramid of interpreting is simultaneous interpreting, right? All seems so fancy. We sit in the booth, we have headsets, and we have a partner, and we also have a mute button, right? But I think in some aspects, shusha-touch in the courthouse is even more challenging than simultaneous interpreting, because there are so many impediments to doing a good job. There are people going in and going out and coming in the courtroom, people talking, paper shuffling, and a lot of the time the judge and counsels talk really softly. Oh my God, we have just to listen like this. I did a job. I was sitting in the dock with a defendant, and the defendant's friend was sitting right behind me, and the defendant was just doing a live commentary. The friend was commenting on the prosecutor's every move. The friend would say, "Oh my God, the prosecutor didn't know what the judge was asking. Oh my God." And I was like, "Oh, shut up, trying to do a job here." Because we really don't have the headset. Sometimes we cannot even hear clearly. Luckily, we had an adjournment. So I talked to the bailiff. I said, "I can't really hear, but you might have to talk to the friend." So the bailiff talked to the friend, and the problem solved. So we need to have some solutions on hand. We need to know who to talk to, who to seek help. Okay? And the next one is switching interpreting mode. This is relevant in terms of arraignment. Arraignment is like in a criminal case. It's in the trial, and the associate will read out the charges, and the defendant will enter into a plea. Most of the time, because the trial is already happening, it's not guilty. At this time, before the arraignment, it's shusha-touch, because we are doing whispering, simultaneous interpreting. But at this time, because it is recorded, we have to switch the interpreting mode into consecutive, so that the recordings can pick up that the defendant actually hears out the charges clearly, and the defendant is pleading not guilty. So this is a point I think everybody should know, every court interpreter should know. And interpreting difficulty, I think I already covered this, noises and everybody talking, things like that. Just know who to talk to, who to seek help. Request a break. In district court and Supreme Court, judges are very well educated on interpreter, how to give instructions to interpreter. So they always ask you before we go into doing our job, the judge will ask you, how long can you go for? If you can go for 40 minutes, just tell the court 40 minutes. If you can go 2 hours, just tell the court 2 hours. If you feel like in between it is really difficult for you to focus, you experience fatigue, we have to be responsible. We have to inform the court that, Your Honor, could the interpreter request a break? Most of the time, the break will be granted. And I have a question for you. So you are going to interpret for a defendant in a maybe drug importation case. So the defendant's counsel approaches you, asks you this question. Could you please come to this room with us? We're going to talk about whether the defendant is going to give evidence or not. So this is regarding the right of silence Connie just covered. Can you actually go to the room? Can you? Yes, you are the court-appointed interpreter. So
you're not working for the defendant.
Yes, you are not a defendant, a member of the defense team.
Oh, no.
No. Even in a civil case, our ultimate responsibility owes to the court. But especially in a criminal setting, we work as a court-appointed interpreter. We cannot be involved in any privileged conversations without the other party knowing about it. So you have to refuse this request very respectfully. I actually experienced this. The lawyer actually got very upset. Lawyer said, "Oh my God, yesterday the interpreter just helped us." And I said, I'm not allowed to do that. And we have a document called Recommended Standards for Working with Interpreters at Courts and Tribunals. You can have a look. It's page 78. And then I left. So you know where to give them the reference to, so they will know you are doing the right thing. So that's a very typical mistake. The next part is interpreting on the witness stand. I already talked about explain our role. Everything you say will be interpreted, and no talking. I'm not allowed to talk to you. And the other things, you have to know the oath or affirmation. Everybody knows about this, right? Oath or affirmation. I think I recommend you to know the English words by heart, and you have like translation in your language by heart, so you know the English will be I solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm everything. The evidence I shall give to the court is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. You will know when they say this, you can just confidently say 庄严并且真诚地说 in your language, because I'm in Mandarin. So be prepared, and it will help with your help with the nerves. No talking with the witness, because I've been involved in a lot of cases that I'm working. I worked as a court-appointed interpreter, and there was another Mandarin interpreter interpreting for the witness, and I've seeing some interpreters maybe not familiar with the rule. This is the most typical and common mistake we cannot make. No talking with the witness. If you need a clarification, or you need the counsel, the lawyer, to repeat the question, what should you say as an interpreter? Should we say, can you please repeat the question? Can we say that? No, we have to say, Your Honor, I'm talking to you as an interpreter. Could the interpreter require the counsel to repeat the question? Or you just say, Your Honor, could the interpreter ask the counsel to repeat the question? Yes, we have to refer ourselves in third person, because we've been interpreting in first person just as a witness. So that's a very typical mistake. The other thing is no editing. No editing. For example, in a cross-examination, the lawyer's question is, Miss Lee, when did you get married with so and so? And this is a witness testimony. 我想一想，2017，不对，2018。And now I'm the interpreter. She said 2018. Do you think the interpreter did a good job? No, you can observe, right? The witness has been quite hesitant. So it is really, really hard because this is actually goes to the point of long consecutive. We cannot do long consecutive because in witness testimony interpreting, we are required to interpret linguistic and also paralinguistic elements. Paralinguistic elements refers to the hesitation, self-correction, things like that, because we are required as a witness interpreter to mirror the original utterance. So we have to say the correct interpretation for the witness should be, let me think, 2017? Oh, maybe 2018. Yes, 2018. That's the mirror, the original utterance. Okay, you get it? Yes, so no editing. A lot of times for vulnerable witness, they don't make sense. Domestic violence, the aggrieved is applying for a protection order. They are crying, they are very emotional, but they say don't really make sense. But can we edit it out? No, we cannot do that. And a lot of the times we'll be the scapegoat. The magistrate will say, oh, maybe this is an interpreting issue. If you are confident it's not an interpreting issue, just inform the court. And if you are acting very professionally, the magistrate will trust you that you do have the skills to produce a very faithful and accurate interpretation. Okay, I already covered this, I think. If you come across a unknown term, can you just guess or omit it? I think? No. We cannot do that. But if like you have a case, a civil case is regarding a contract breach, a lot of terms the court would expect you to know already, like considerations, offers, misrepresentations, executed, and executory. Those legal terms the court already expect you to know, but there will always be terms that we don't know. If you don't know, just tell the court, inform the court you are not familiar with the term, and seek leave, seek permission from the court to consult your dictionary. I always bring my electronic dictionary to the courthouse, just in case, and it makes me feel more rest assured that if there's a term I don't know, I can just look up in the dictionary. Okay, after the job, we have to be signed off. So talk to the bailiff or go to the registry so the relevant court personnel can sign us off. And for some tribunals, especially administrative appeals tribunals, they now have a rule that you have to leave your notes on the table so that the associate or the hearing assistant can shred it. So do leave the notes on the table. For courts like magistrate court, district court, just dispose of the notes. And self-reflection, what I have learned, if there's a term I didn't know, maybe I can write it down in my work journal, so next time I will know. And if, like, after you finish a day's job, you suddenly realize that you made a mistake, still, even on the second day, we have to report to the judge that we made an interpreting mistake. We have to correct our error. And confidentiality. Like, I just did a very high-profile case, and people have been talking about it, and we cannot join the conversation because we have to keep everything confidential, right, and impartial. And some other thoughts, professional conduct. We cannot draw undue attention to us. This is, for example, you have like hot pink suit. It's beautiful. You love the suit. Don't wear it to the court. Play it safe, navy or blue. A court protocol like court etiquette, when you enter the court, bow to the magistrate, and when you address the judge, your honor, things like that. Honest and integrity relates to if you think you are not up to the job, don't accept it. If you are just starting to do interpreting jobs and somebody give you a full day trial, don't do it. Start with a consultation, maybe legal aid or things like that. But I trust Translationz. Translationz has a very strict selection, or they have a legal panel. They only produce the best interpreter. So, but be honest and have integrity. Professional development, like the legal workshop we are having today. And be curious and be a lifelong learner. Always learn random things. I like to listen to podcasts, right? So one of my favorite podcasts is How I Built This. It's about entrepreneurship, how people start their business, startups and things like that, Silicon Valley companies. And it talked a lot about venture capital, unicorn companies, things like that. And I thought, yes, that's very exciting, but it's just entertainment. I was just listening to those stories. But last month, I had a civil dispute, and all those terms were talked about in the case. So I just got it from listening to the podcast. So always learn random stuff. The other case I did is a sexual assault case, and the expert witness talked about whether massaging the breasts would produce therapeutic effects. So they talked about lumpectomy, mastectomy. If you do medical interpreting, this will be covered in a breast cancer case, right? So always learn random stuff. You never know it will be used in the future or not. And the interpreting skills require constant honing. So go to the court to observe a random case, or listening to podcasts, or watch American TV shows, legal shows, right? That will help, definitely help. I think that's me. Yes. If you have any questions, I think we have Q&A. Yeah, just ask me. Thank you very much.